algebra, the coordinate plane, coordinate points, xy intercepts, and slope of a line. We have a lot to cover here, and I know that it's new for many of us. First thing I want to do is acquaint you with the xy coordinate system. Really, all the xy coordinate system is the intersection of a horizontal line and a vertical line. The horizontal line is called our x-axis. The vertical line is called our y-axis. Where they intersect is called our origin and has the notation, point notation of 0, 0. Okay, the next thing I want to do is talk about point notation. Point notation is always given within parentheses here. The first coordinate is always your x-coordinate. It indicates movement parallel to the x-axis. The second coordinate is your y-coordinate, and it indicates movement parallel to the y-axis. I think the best way for you to get comfortable with this is to go ahead and plot points. If you think of the first quadrant here, this upper right corner of our xy coordinate system, it's really a graph that I know many of us have gotten information off of graphs and charts and so forth. If you just think of it in that regard, I think you'll be fine. First point that I want to plot is this point 3, 2. Now the x-coordinate is 3. So I'm going to start here at the origin, and I'm going to move along the x-axis in the direction of positive 3. So I move over here to the 3. The second coordinate is 2. That is my y-coordinate, so I'm going to move parallel to the y-axis up 2 units, which would be about right here. So this would be our point 3, 2. Okay, the next point that we're going to plot is negative 4, 1. So again, I'm going to start at the origin. My first coordinate is the x-coordinate. It's negative, so I'm going to go in the negative direction along the x-axis to negative 4. The second coordinate is the y-coordinate, and it's 1, a positive 1, so I'm going to move up 1. This point is 4, 1. Okay. The next point that I'm going to plot is 3, negative 4. Again, starting at the origin, which is 0, 0. My first coordinate, the x-coordinate, is 3. It's a positive 3, so I'm going to go over 3. The second coordinate is negative 4, so I'm going to go down negative 4. So this point is 3, negative 4. The next point is negative 2, negative 3. So I'm going to go in the negative direction and along the x-axis to negative 2 and down to negative 3 along parallel to the y-axis. This is negative 2, negative 3. The next coordinate I'm going to plot, or next point I'm going to plot, is 0, 2. That is over 0 units, but up 2 units on the y-axis. So here we have 0, 2. The next coordinate or point is 5, 0. So I'm going to go over 5, and there will be no movement parallel to the y-axis, so I'm going to plot this right on the x-axis, and that point is 5, 0. Okay, I've got quite a few points here. I don't know that you would need to know this for the GED, but this upper quadrant here is our quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Just getting comfortable with that, plotting points on the xy coordinate system. Next thing I want to do is talk about slope, but slope refers to lines. What I want to do is plot a line going across here. Let's say I connect these 2 points right here. And also, I'm going to connect these 2 points right here. Okay, making use of a paper there because I can't reach my ruler. Okay, I can see that I've got 2 lines here going from left to right. This line rises going left to right. Going from left to right, this line falls. Okay, that's important, and that is going to tell us that the first line that rises going left to right has a positive slope. The second line that falls going left to right has a negative slope. Right down here I've written kind of a common phrase that people learn in regard to slope. It is rise or fall over run. A lot of times students first are acquainted with rise over run, but it could also be fall. If it's rise going left to right, it's going to be a positive slope. If it's fall going left to right, it's going to be a negative slope. Now, the formula for finding slope is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, and that formula would be given to you on the GED, on the formula page. But most students look at that and they kind of wig out and go, oh my gosh, what's this 1 here? What's this 2 here? And so forth. Really, that is just identifying your points. And students kind of get overwhelmed here, and I wanted to show you a shortcut that we could use. I'm going to slide this up here. Hopefully we don't lose too much space. What I want to do is look at the points that created my first line. I have -2 and -3 are the coordinates of the first point here. The second point was 3, 2, and I'm going to stack them just because I think it's the easiest way to do it. I'm going to identify this first point really as my x1 and y1, and my second point is x2, y2, but you don't really need to worry about that because the way I've got it set up here, it's just automatic and fall in play. What I'm going to do is think about, how did I get from this point to this point? I'm going to look at, what is the change in my x? How did I get from -2 to 3? It looks like I added 5 there. Okay, how did I get from this y to this y? I went from -3 to 2. Again, it looks like I added 5 there. Now my slope, the formula is rise over run over, or rise or fall over run, or the change in y over the change in x. This is my change in x. This is my change in y. So I'm going to go ahead and write my change in y, which was 5, over my change in x, which is also 5. And that's going to give me a slope of 1 over 1, or I could rewrite that as 1 if I wanted to. But basically what I want to point out, the significance of that is I can start at any point on that line and go up 1 unit, over 1 unit, up 1 unit, over 1 unit, up 1 unit, over 1 unit. And I'm going to keep landing on this line because what I'm doing is I'm applying the slope over and over and over again, kind of that stair-step effect. I'm not really making great steps there, but I'm applying that slope, the change, up and over, rise and run, to constantly land on that line. So basically the slope indicates and tells us how we can get from one point to another on a line. Now let's take, again, this was a positive slope. Okay, let's take a look at the 2 points on the other. I had the point 0, 2, and I also had the point 5, 0. And I'm going to look at what was my change in x? How did I get from 0 to 5? I added 5. What was my change in y? How did I get from 2 to 0? Looks like I subtracted 2. Now again, slope is change in y over change in x. This is my change in y, so I'm going to write -2 over my change in x, which is 5. So here I have a slope of -2/5, which means starting at any point I can go down 2 units and over 5 units, down 2 units and over 5 units. I could have gone back 5 and up 2, and I would keep landing on points. I'm really doctoring up my drawing here, but I'm trying to point out really what slope is. It's how we can communicate how we get from one point to another. And it just tells us how much our line slants. Okay? Now, these 2 points are kind of significant for another reason. I use them to help me find my slope, but also they're significant because they each are an intercept. The first point, which is 0, 2, right here, 0, 2, this is where this line crosses the y-axis, and we call that the y-intercept. Okay, I'm going to slide this up here. Okay, again, 0, 2 is where this line crossed the y-axis. That is called the y-intercept. 5, 0 is where this line crosses the x-axis, and we call that our x-intercept. Okay, those are terms that you might be asked to identify, the point where a line crosses the x-intercept. They won't explain it like that. They'll say which point is my x-intercept, which point is my y-intercept. Notice that 0 is the coordinate of the other component. In other words, 5, 0 is my x-intercept. That's where x is equal to 5, and 0 is the y coordinate. Vice versa, when it comes to looking at the y-intercept, 0 is my x-coordinate. 2 is where it crosses the y-axis. It's just significant points there. Okay, that's about all I want to cover on this lesson. Before you move on, I would encourage you to get some practice plotting points on the xy coordinate system. Get a little practice calculating slope. That formula is not all that ominous if you kind of stack and find your differences there and write up your fraction slope there. Also, get yourself acquainted with x and y intercept. Thank you for joining me on my lesson.